Welcome to Soul Light and Body. Today is such a beautiful day. It is sunny at our end. Gratitude today because we're here once again and we need to give that gratitude. I hope you're journaling the way how you feel, journal your thoughts, just write it down because you could always go back and look at it and then you could see exactly the areas you really need to work on for your life and to live your best self. We have such a beautiful guest today, Elise Michaels, and she's here to help us, especially the men, for us to understand the trauma that men go through and how they could live an optimal life. She's going to give us some pointers and give, I like to say, the tools for our toolkit. So the ladies out there, the mothers out there, just grab your pen, your paper, and just make some notes because we all have male in our lives. And Elise is here to help us to understand when sometimes you see the way how they behave with anger, it's deeper than that. And we look at them and then we say, oh my God, they're behaving so bad. But a lot of us don't really take the time to understand what exactly is happening with these men. And men kind of like very taboo. They don't like to talk about the way how they feel. They think it's a stigma, so they keep suppressing it. So Elise is here to clear the air today and to help the men to understand that, you know what? It's okay that you could talk to a coach and tell them exactly the way how you're feeling. You don't have to keep on living suppressing your trauma because there is purpose in you and you can live the best life in this lifetime. I'm Karen Pascal. I'm a holistic health and wellness coach and a co-author of 2 ebooks with my sister, Joan Williams. I'll now hand you over to Miss Joan Williams.
Welcome to you all. Happy Friday. And today is a day where we can all just tone down a little bit, show ourselves some compassion and love. Let's be kind to ourselves, be kind to others as well. My name is Joan Williams, holistic health and wellness coach, and also the co-author of the 2 ebooks with Karen. We have a beautiful today, which is going to touch on such an important subject that is important in all our lives because our male, our brother, our husbands, our uncle, who suffer from trauma. And as Karen rightly said, it's been suppressed because sometimes males, but if you admit certain things, you put yourself in a very vulnerable space. So it's been held in you for such a long time. But Elise is going to able to unfold and unlock and give us some keys how we can help support the males in our lives. So Elise, welcome.
Welcome,
Amazing.
Elsie.
Thank you guys so much. Happy to be here.
Yes. So I'm just going to give a little background on Ms. Michaels. Ms. Michaels is a trauma-informed men coach that helps men specifically to find purpose and passion and by healing their subconscious trauma. She's been doing this job for almost about 3 years. 3 years now. Continue to work her practice with variety of groups, one-on-one, and subscription membership type of. So welcome again. We have you here. Tell us how you got started in this aspect in as a coach helping men through their trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, I started my business almost 3 years ago. and I actually intended to be a women's coach, but I was posting videos on LinkedIn and it was only men that were reaching out to me. So I really saw that men don't have a lot of support when it comes to mental health. And I just decided to be that person that they could go to really help guide them through any pain or trauma that they had.
Wow, that's awesome because it is so needed right now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So this has become your passion now. So tell us how a male who's going through trauma, went through trauma in their lives, how can they find that passion and purpose again?
Yeah. So, I mean, if someone has gone through trauma, there's big T trauma and there's little T trauma, which is not to invalidate any kind of trauma. But there are going to be different levels to which someone feels traumatized and notice the effects of trauma in their life. So it's not just kind of clear cut, like this is what you need to do in order to find purpose and passion again when you've been through trauma. However, if a male comes to me and he's feeling lost, he's feeling like there are things blocking him from finding his purpose, he's confused, I always start with making them clear some space in their schedule in the morning, preferred, to start to reconnect with the silence so that they can reconnect with themselves and what they actually desire and what they actually like. Because what I often find is men who have lost their purpose and passion have just lost sight of themselves, lost sight of what they enjoy, lost sight of their, their activities. They've given everything they can to supporting the family, to work, and they don't remember what it's like to just be happy for themselves. And so we kind of start there and get back in alignment with like, who even are you?
Right. Right. That's so important. And what about the support system that is needed for them?
Yeah. So men don't actually have a big support system for them when it comes to their mental health. A lot of women will shy away when men start talking about emotions because women have also been programmed to look at men as weak if they cry or weak if they share emotions. And so as often as women say, I want to connect and I want to hear what's going on with you, they're not actually ready themselves to handle it when he opens up and connects. And this ends up backfiring even more because she's now turned off and he feels like, oh, this just, emphasizes my table of beliefs that I can't go to anyone for my problems. So if you're a man who is looking for support, I definitely suggest seeking a counselor or a therapist or a coach who's trauma informed as your first person so that you confront someone who has the tools and has the space to help you, as opposed to friends and family who might not be able to support you in the way that you need and deserve.
Absolutely. Because a lot of time men, they would sit there, they would put on this beautiful smile on their faces, but deep down within, there's a lot of stuff happening within them.
Right.
And many times they don't have a partner who is supportive, that it could give them that space that they could bring out what is really affecting them. And what I have noticed over the years is that the trauma that people went through, they bring it from relationship to relationship to relationship. And many times the partner don't even understand exactly what's happening with that individual. And they end up having a divorce, or they
Right.
end up having a relationship that is broken. And they still not heal and end up going into another relationship or another marriage, and the same thing happen. The breakdown happened again because the healing did not take place within the individual, right? Could you explain to us how could someone with that trauma really try to really heal themselves?
You have to go to someone who actually has the tools. A lot of us try to self-heal. Like you said, we go from relationship to relationship. Oh, I didn't like that. I did like that. But you're only addressing these symptoms and not the cause. You're only putting a Band-Aid on all of the things that you don't like by, moving one piece instead of actually solving the puzzle. So if you're finding that you're in repetitive patterns, the only common denominator is you. So we have to go back to the source, which is us. And that's all we can control anyway. You can't change a partner. So it's on you if there are repeating patterns. Not all women are bad. Not all men are bad. It's not like there's no good women, no good men out there. It's you. You have to go and do the work.
Right.
Absolutely. It is so important for us to understand exactly what you just said there. We got to put in the work for ourselves. We got to heal ourselves. But a lot of time, we look on the outside for the healing. The only time you're going to look on the outside is when you're consulting a coach to get that help from the outside. So the coach could ask you the right questions for you to go deep within and find the answers within yourself. That is so important.
Right, because they can see what you can't see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can a male be unaware of trauma?
Yeah, everybody can be unaware of trauma, because if you can't see it, the thing about trauma is it's not specified by an event, it's specified by the psychological impact of an event. So anybody can be traumatized and not know it, right? Because when you're a child, you're like a sponge. You're soaking up how to survive in your environment, how to gain love, how to gain validation. And you don't understand that as a child. You're just surviving, right? You're just learning how to walk, you're learning how to crawl. But your brain is like, okay, this is how things should be, and this is how they're done. And it creates a template. And it never questions the template until we become an adult and we run into problems like toxic relationships and repeated patterns. And, I'm always failing at X. That's the only time that we ever look at ourselves and go, oh, wait, I might need to take a look at something and start doing something different. So pretty much all trauma I think that we have is usually subconscious, unless it's a big event that you realize and remember, like, oh, that was traumatic for me.
Wow. I really love how you explain that. Yeah, that is so true. What should men do when feeling burnt out?
Stop doing the things that burn you out. You have to start, being burnt out is kind of like having a bank account and you have bankrupt your bank account, right? Because if you're at the point of burnout, your adrenals are totally fatigued. You have no space to relax. Like even when you're relaxed, you're still stressed and anxious. And it's all about the nervous system at that point. So you have to start doing things that fill up your bank account, which means excessive periods of time of rest, of self-care, of not doing all the things that stress you out. And sometimes that doesn't feel possible because you have to work a lot. But mentally, you can still give yourself a break by, like not being so hard on yourself, by not beating yourself up all the time. And I think that's just like the cherry on top to how we burn ourselves out, because on top of doing everything we possibly can, we also have a negative sense of self-worth and self-esteem where we're just constantly beating ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true.
In order for a male to be a good leader, to be a great spouse, and to be a man as being whole, he has to heal, and it has to be from the root, starting from the root cause.
Right.
So he can function and see where he can be his best self.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see a comment here. I served in the Army from 70 to 79 and Navy from 82 to 83. The entire time seemed like collective insanity, left me with some deep damage and many others I served with. I mean, absolutely. The Army and the military in general is a big T trauma. The military teaches you how to be in a fight or flight response and almost to ignore the natural instincts of fight or flight. Right? It teaches you to be laser focused even when your system is feeling unsafe. And the negative part about the military is that when you come out, it doesn't teach you how to readapt. So when you come out of the military, you are still living in that fight or flight stress response. And then we have so many instances of PTSD and, military vets not being able to readjust to civilian lifestyle because they're always in this heightened sense of I'm about to be attacked. So that's something I talk to my clients about a lot because I have some veteran clients is learning how to recalibrate your nervous system and calm it down and understand when calm doesn't feel like threat anymore, because that's what happens is they make calm, even the calm, feel like a threat. And I'm doing this because it represents for me like the window of tolerance. We call it Hulk versus Bruce Banner. So if our system is all the way up here, you know, we need to learn how to bring it back down here and live in this space, not live in this space.
That is so true what you're saying there. And to add something else to what you're saying is that you find even these people who come out from the military, before they went into the military, they had trauma. So now you're going to the military and there is added trauma on that trauma, you know? So it's a whole big thing. So when they come out, as you said, when they come out, remember they come out, they're not healed as yet. And then they add the other layer on that. So it's a whole thing they got to work to break down those walls before they really could even understand themselves.
Yes. But at the same time, I don't want it to seem like, because when we talk about, oh, there's layers here and layers here, it makes it seem almost impossible to get to the center of that Tootsie Pop, right? The number one thing I learned in trauma therapy was the main source of healing is the relationship between therapist and client, and having a relaxed nervous system. If the nervous system is relaxed, trauma cannot exist. And like I said, this isn't to invalidate our experiences, because our experiences create patterns and beliefs and behaviors. So obviously we have to work through all that. But if you can get to a place where you can learn how to relax your nervous system, everything else will come easy. Right? But before we relax the nervous system, the prefrontal cortex is not lit up. So we're not able actually. And this is the thing is, so many of us try to learn things and try to change things when we're all up in this state. Yes. Your body is not thinking about the color of the sky or how do I logically plan out my business when it is in a heightened state of anxiety. It doesn't make any sense, but we try to do it all the time. Yes. It's not, and that's why it's not successful, because you're not actually utilizing the proper structures of your brain. You're in fight or flight.
Yeah, that's absolutely true what you just said there. That's absolutely true. Yeah, it is.
What are some of the tools, the modalities that can bring us down and the individual down, and to consistently maintain that? How difficult that is?
There are so many tools and none of them are difficult. It kind of depends on what works for you. Like we brought up earlier, I've been doing something called ice baths, which, you know, if you have medical conditions, consult your doctor before you do an ice bath. I wouldn't recommend doing it by yourself. But anything that draws your attention to the senses and forces you to be present is a good tool for self-regulation, because when we're irregulated, usually our mind is going in a spiral, right? We're either thinking in the future, thinking in the past. And our body is following that, right? Or our body is creating it, and then we start thinking. So things like ice baths, cold showers, holding an ice cube, eating a sour lemon, breathing exercises. Those are all things that are very simple that you can do immediately. Like you take your breath with you everywhere. So if you can control your breath and slow the rate of your breathing, you can slow the rate of your nervous system and bring yourself back down to the present, right? You can also tense up every single muscle in your body, including your buttocks, as hard as you can for as long as you can, and then release. So any tension that was in your muscles that you didn't recognize or realize, you've now relaxed it. There are tons of small ways, and it just becomes a practice until you can understand when you are feeling anxious, right? Because if you've never done this before, you're going to be like, I'm fine. Usually you're not. So intentionally doing little exercises like this brings your awareness back to the present and allows your nervous system to relax, even if it's just for a second, so that we can start re-engaging that prefrontal cortex.
Yeah. I noticed you mentioned ice bath. Can you tell us about that you had done?
Yeah. So I was a person who hated cold showers, and I live in the tropics. Like I said, I live in Mexico, and I would never have thought that I would want to do an ice bath, but they have them here on the beach. It's ironic. He brings his little tub to the beach, and we get to look at the ocean while we do it. So I was just like, whatever. I like to push myself. So I went, and it's 10 minutes of breath work beforehand, and then you do the ice bath, and he does it for 3.5 minutes. So here I am, a person who's never liked cold showers, who lives in the tropics, And I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit in a tub of ice for 3 minutes. It seemed a
Wow.
little ridiculous. But I did it, and it was amazing. The breath work that we did was just a very simple Wim Hof type of method. It's just, breathing in, breathing out almost to a hyperventilative state, and you oxygenate your blood. You fill it with that carbon dioxide, and then you're able to hold your breath for like a really long time, like almost 2 minutes.
Yes.
And you get in this tub of ice, and depending on what parts are submerged, if you put your hands in, it's harder. If you put your shoulders and neck in, it's also harder. So the first time I put everything in except for my shoulders and neck. And after a while I had to take my hands out because it was so cold. But the benefits of that was, pushing beyond what is comfortable, right? I liked it because it's an intentional form of like a mental exercise as well as a physical exercise that anybody can do anything for 3 minutes. And if you can push yourself past this discomfort, if you can tell yourself that, like my body feels uncomfortable now, but it's not going to kill me. It's going to, be over soon. I think that's something that we can kind of take back into daily life and keep pushing through. And, you take that experience with you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Wow.
That's really deep, because myself, I also started to do my cold showers, and it took me a while for the body to adjust. You start off with the warm, and then you just kind of start turning to get the colder, and then eventually the body now kind of adjusts towards that. And you feel amazing when you finish doing that. You feel so amazing. Yes.
Yeah, it gets the blood flow going. It wakes up your system a little bit. But some people, like I said, check with your doctor before you do an ice bath, because some people can be dangerous about it. You don't want to go into hypothermia. That's why my coach who does it says like 3.5 minutes is the perfect amount of time. And if you want more challenge, you move your body just a little bit in the ice bath, because when you're sitting as still as possible, and whatever orifices of yourself you're touching, like it keeps a little bit of heat. So if you move even slightly, then it's all cold again. It's awful.
Yes. What are some of the signs of an unsolved trauma?
So many. It just depends. There's probably going to be disconnection in relationships, disconnection with being able to go after the goals and dreams that you want, inability to follow through. And it really depends on like what the kind of trauma is. A lot of men that I work with come from fatherless homes or absent parent homes. And it doesn't even mean like the father is gone, but emotionally absent, just not there, not connecting. So there's a lot of wound within relationship. There's a lot of wound within self-esteem, feeling good. I see a lot of patterns of trying to achieve in the business world, success world, money world, but then they get to, 40 and they're like, I don't know where I'm at in my life. I feel lost. I feel alone. I feel like I have all the success, but it doesn't really give me a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is so true, because we had a show a few weeks ago on Jeremy Kirk, because he was talking about mental prison. Many times we are in a marriage or in a relationship or even at work. It's just the physical is there, but the mental is not there, because our mind is somewhere else. It's processing other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's as you said, we are disconnected, and it could affect us really badly, because, and as we said before, because many times people can't understand what's happening with us, and men in particular, they don't say nothing.
Right. Well, they don't feel like they can say anything, and even beyond that, they are not able to identify how they're feeling because they have been taught for so long to shove it down and ignore it. Even if they want to tell you, they're like, I don't know what I'm feeling. They really don't know. And it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's really just the way that, and you think about the way that we raise our sons. We're like, come on, we treat sons much differently than we treat daughters. We're so much more gentle with daughters. And when it comes to our sons, we're like, hey, he's got to toughen up.
Yes.
But children need nurturing just the same.
Right.
That is so true what you're saying there. We need to start to really focus on our kids, and especially the boys, how we are really treating them and what we are saying to them.
Yeah.
Because whatever we say to them, that is how they're going to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You still walk with that belief within that limited belief.
Yeah.
But that kind of trusted source, a coach such as you, then they can come to you and express. And I'm sure you have to dig very deep to get. I guess you have to put them in the position of how long does it take? How long does the process take? I guess it varies with someone to come to you.
Right. I mean, it really does vary depending on what their goals and stuff are. But usually, if someone has found me, they're in a place where they're ready to start talking about things, and I am the person who helps give them the language and the tools that can help them start to learn how to express, and then take that back home and learn how to express that to their spouse or to their children.
Right.
But
You
when they
give.
first come to me, they just don't know. They'll give me one thing, and it's usually a lot of what I get is I feel like stuck. I feel like a lack of purpose and passion. I feel there's no intimate connection with the spouse. But always, 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 those are just symptoms, and it always goes deeper than that.
Right.
Wow.
You're there to provide them with clarity that they can move in a different direction to achieve their goals and dreams. That's
Right.
amazing.
I try.
Yeah, it is. It is amazing. It's really, really amazing. Um, I think you answered that question, because my next question was used. How long does it take to reprogram the subconscious mind?
I mean, there's no time frame. I explain it to my clients like this. If you're in the winter, right? People who grew up in the Midwest will understand, like, snow can go feet high, right? And if you have a path that you have been shoveling every day, it doesn't matter how high the snow is, because now you have a path that's cleared. Most of us have a path that's cleared in our brain, right? A neural pathway where we've walked the same path over and over. So that path is clear, but at the end there's a dumpster fire, right? This is the subconscious trauma. So then when they come to session, I say, okay, now we have to dig a new path. And you look at it, you're like, oh my God, I have to dig a new path out of 8 feet of snow, out of 10 years, 20 years of doing the same behavior pattern. I now have to do something different, right? It's very daunting. And your brain is a very efficient machine. It does not want to do a new path. It's like, what do you mean? I already carved this path. It's very deep.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so the thing, though, I think it's good to explain this, because a lot of times we will start digging a new path, but then the path is shallow, right? Like there's still more to dig until that other side becomes snowed in and this becomes the new path. But a lot of times people will quit because it's still easier to take the other path and they think they've made no progress. But you have made progress. You just have to understand that this one is so deep from so many years of wear and tear that now you are carving this fresh one. Eventually, this one is going to be the new path. And at first, it's going to take discipline to take the new path. And then that will become the new habit and new routine and new lifestyle. It's like going to the gym, you know? First, it sucks because you're used to doing this way. But that doesn't mean you're wrong or you're lazy or you don't have the capability. You're just used to a certain pattern and habit.
Right.
But the second that, you get up the first day, you force yourself to go. You get up the second day, the second week, you force yourself to go. It sucks, it sucks, it sucks. And then one day you're like, I'm ready. Right? And then that's the new pathway. And then this pathway seems like, oh, so strange. Why would I ever take that path? Right? It becomes snowed over. It's no longer existent. It's the same with trauma, but it depends on the person.
Yes, exactly. It does depend. It does depend on the individual, because many times, both male and female, we tend to give up without even starting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we may try something one day. We may go to a coach one day, and people expect things to just happen overnight. And as you rightfully said there, remember, it's so much of things that is piled up there, and we got to shovel it through, so you got to go back to different sessions to help you to shovel through, to get through, and to make that pathway. But a lot of times we may go to one session, we may go to two sessions, then we say, oh my God, I can't do this. And that's the mind playing with you. telling you, no, you can't do this. As you said, you already have another pathway that already carved out for you. Keep going there. Don't go to the new one,
Mhm.
And that is how we tend to give up on ourselves and go back into that loop that we so familiar with. Because
Yeah.
many times we are familiar, and it's difficult for people to step away from the familiar to start something that is new that would help them. And another thing too that you touched on too is that we need a coach to help you through this, because people tell themselves, no, I'm going to read a book or I can watch a video and I'm going to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a coach, the coach hold you accountable. The accountability is there. And then you have that support system as a coach help you along the way, because the coach is going to check in with you. I sure you check in with your clients, Elise. I know you check in with your clients, and make sure that they're upkeeping what they say they're going to do. So that's how the coach is so effective when somebody's really going through a deep trauma. Get a coach to help you, because the coach is going to know exactly how to give you the shovel and to start digging. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, though, the coach is only as effective as your desire to change.
True.
Because
True.
a lot of times people will give up and quit because they don't understand that in order to heal also takes a certain amount of pain.
Yeah.
And so in yourself, you have to weigh out what is more painful, because unfortunately, as human desire has it, like we run away from pain as opposed to running towards pleasure. So even though our life might suck right now and it's painful, is it painful enough to face the effort and the discipline and the pain of change? Some people have to hit rock bottom before they decide to take the other route. And it's unfortunate because as coaches, you can see someone's going down the wrong path and you want to help them. And you're like, why
Yeah.
won't you just listen to me? Why won't you just let me hold you accountable? Because they're not ready. They're not in enough pain yet. And it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but you have to let people live in their pain until they can no longer stand it. I've learned to let
Absolutely.
go,
Mm-hmm. I
Well,
know.
go ahead, Joan.
Oh, I was going to say, I know each person it varies, but can you describe what it's like when a client male has gotten their breakthrough with you?
Has gotten their what with me?
Their breakthrough.
Breakthrough.
Like, can you be more specific? Because
Okay,
like,
that he reached the awakening moment where he's went through the trauma and he's healed and could live like find purpose again.
well, I think we have a misconception about like, you don't just heal trauma and you don't just become a healed person.
Mm-hmm.
Your evolution in this life is going to be eternal. Like nobody ever reaches the state of like pure enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm healed. I'm done. You get to a point where you're like, I feel like I have the tools. I feel like I can function in this world and I can adapt as I go. Right. Because we will never be perfect. So, there are different points of breakthroughs, right? A lot of my clients have breakthroughs on the first session because finally they're understanding what's going on for them. Finally, they're able to have a space where they can release. And hopefully every session after that also holds a little breakthrough, because I'm trying to constantly help them yield results that they can see and feel. Right. And the more that they relax into the session, into the process, the more breakthroughs they're going to have. It's when we're so resistant that we fail to see any progress.
Right. So they always have to approach it with an open mindset and to receive.
They have to at least be open to being open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can help crack the rest.
Yes. Because if you're not, as you said, if you're not open to be open and you have the resistance, you can't get the breakthrough.
Right.
The
It's like, why are
breakthrough
you even
can't happen.
there? If you know all the
Exactly.
answers, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Exactly. And many of us are walking around like that.
Mm-hmm.
We are not willing to be open. And that is why you got to continue to go into that loop until, as you said, until the pain until you get the heart pain, then you
Right.
will really realize, well, you know what? This is enough.
Yeah,
Right.
This is enough.
exactly. I don't want
This
to
is
live.
enough. I don't want to live like this anymore. This is enough. Yes.
Hmm.
And many of us is until that happened, well then. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. hmm Um, could you explain to us it with women and men, how do they handle that trauma?
Well, men shove it down, and women, like both parties don't understand that what they're dealing with is trauma usually, but women are more supported when it comes to talking about how they feel. So generally, they tend to feel more supported, and they can go to their friends, they can go to their family. And so, because they feel more supported, they're more open to going to a therapist, to going to a coach. Since men are kind of pushed into don't talk about it, don't let it exist, they're very resistant. So it's kind of like the woman is left begging the man to connect, begging the man to do the work, and he's left feeling like no one cares about me when I do that stuff. So it's kind of like a rock and a hard place, right?
Yes, 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 yes. Um, in a situation like that, if let's say a man come to you for coaching and he is in a relationship with a woman and he is working on himself, but that next his wife or in a relationship with somebody else, she's now working on herself. How do you see that really working?
That she's not working on herself.
Yeah, she got trauma too.
Yeah, usually that's how it happens. Usually one partner is always going and the other partner is not. Sometimes you get lucky and both people work on themselves, but yeah, usually in those scenarios, I see it as like the nice guy scenario, where there's a wonderful book by Dr. Robert Glover called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And it's all about men who grew up in these environments where they're taught to people please. And so they don't have boundaries, they don't state their needs, and they're kind of wishy-washy. And they get with women who are very like, they're demanding. They run over you like you're a carpet. And so those are some of the men that I get in my sessions as well, where they are now feeling like they're taken advantage of and they're not appreciated. And it was like that from the very beginning, but now it's just over time, they're like sick of it, right? Now they're starting to wake up. And so at that point, it's like, okay, well, now you have to start stating your needs and setting boundaries. And your partner's probably not going to like that because you have created a container where you never did that before, right? So you have to imagine when you're in a relationship container, you guys have co-created these rules that you subconsciously operate around. And now that you start changing yourself, the rules of the container are changing and you're doing it without your partner's permission, right? So you're going to upset them. But if you have a partner who is, a co-creator with you and not just trying to create their own world and force that on the relationship, hopefully they will understand and adapt with you that like new rules need to be set and changed.
I know you talk about boundaries.
Mm.
That is so important to set the boundaries.
Yeah, I'm loving these comments. I found that as I grow and change my behavior, it helps heal and slowly change my wife. Being honest has helped so much. I was not exactly Mr. Care Bear before. Exactly. And that's exactly what I tell my clients as well, is that, when you change, everything changes. We can come into session and say, my kid has this problem, my wife has this problem, my boss has this problem, but we're not talking about them right now. We're talking about you. And when you change your perspective on yourself, you change how you show up in the world, you change your energy and how you're perceived by the world, and then everything changes.
Yeah. Because then you find your purpose and you could step into your power as the individual.
Yes. Yes.
You influence others around you.
Yes.
Yeah. Someone is saying to the partner can also feel threatened by your growth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can
Yeah.
feel threatened, if they're not growing, if they're not willing to look at themselves, they might want to keep you small. They might also feel like they're going to lose you because they have some self-esteem and insecurity. It's not always like the other person is the bad guy just because they're upset that you're changing. They might feel threatened by the fact that the rules of the container are changing. And if they do feel threatened by your growth and they don't want you to grow, you need to reevaluate the relationship, which is, if we're in a bad relationship, part of us was a match to that bad relationship. And that's also something that we need to look at. And that's also something that I think a lot of people try to avoid responsibility on. in this era.
That is so true what you're saying there, because as we grow and we evolve, things start to change. We start to see things differently, and as you said, because the rules in the container start to change, and you may have the man may have a wife, and she's so accustomed to the rules in that container, and she is so comfortable with the rules in that container, it's difficult for her to understand that this individual is working on themselves and they are evolving. And for her now, she, as you said, insecurities may step in with her, and she may even start to do a blame game with him, and it's vice versa too.
Mm-hmm.
She may because he may come home, he may be so happy, and she never saw him like that. And the first thing will come to her, oh, he must have a relationship with someone else, because he's showing up, as you said, different in the marriage now, or different in the relationship now. And she becomes so affected, or he becomes so exactly what you said just now. The evolution, when we start to really work on ourselves, and the evolution, when it happens, it affects the people around us.
Right. Because everything's shifting.
Mm-hmm.
Things are shifting.
Yeah.
And one wonders what's happening.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's why that comment was so valuable that Tommy left. Being honest was helped so much, right? So if you're a man who's going through this healing journey, ideally you're talking to your spouse about it, either before you start or as you get into it. And, they're going to understand that, oh, these changes are occurring because they are dedicating time to themselves. They're starting to create boundaries. They're starting to attune to their needs. Not just one day I come home happy and it seems like now I'm having an affair.
Yeah. So true. So true.
Communication.
Right.
So you're rightfully saying there that whenever a male or a female do decide to seek a coach to work on themselves, they need to have that communication with each other to let them know, something, that I'm working on myself now. You may see changes in me, because whatever you're accustomed to, I'll be a totally different person when I finish doing the work on myself.
Right. I mean, ideally, ideally you'll be a different person if that's what you're going for. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to tell them the details of what you go through in the sessions, because some things you want to keep private, I'm sure. But telling your partner that, hey, like, I'm looking to change some things about me. So if I start showing up different, that's probably why.
Yeah.
And that will be a motivation for the partner too, that she want to work on herself as well. So that can motivate her as well. That can be a motivation for her.
Right.
Exactly. And if it's a relationship whereby it's very communicative, he could say to his wife, something, I want to be a better spouse for you. So this is why I am doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're so accustomed living a certain way, and that's not working for us. I would like to be a better spouse for you. So I'm working on myself so I could be a better spouse for you. And it's the same thing the woman, she could do. She could do the same thing to be a better spouse to her husband.
Right.
Or a better girlfriend or a fiance in a relationship. So it's both ways, but the men are the main concern, because they tend to look at themselves as the macho guy. We don't have to do this,
Yeah, but that's also a protection mechanism, right? If someone's so in an extreme, it's just because they're covering up, right? A lot of pain, a lot of insecurity. And I would actually say that it's better to say, hey, I'm looking to become a better person for me so that I can show up better for you. And I want you to show up for yourself better so you can show up better for me, as opposed to, I just want to change myself to be a better person for you. Because then, it loses its drive, it loses its authenticity. And if we can actually just be aligned on our own and come together and be happy on our own, then there's usually no problems in the relationship, because we don't feel like our needs aren't being met because we're meeting our own needs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Rightfully said. Yes, yes, yes,
It
yes.
from perspective, that's so true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
hmm And then
Wow.
you have a better relationship and living your best lives.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
For yourself, your family, your kids, and everything.
Exactly, 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 exactly. Because once the changes happen within an individual, the evolution happen.
hmm
And when the evolution happen, and if there's kids, that gentleman, he could able to, especially his boy children, he could able to mentor them and help them to be better men in society and make better choices for themselves too.
hmm
So it's a win-win.
Yeah. There's where the great change.
Yes, it's a win-win. It's a win-win. Um, what happened if someone, you're working on someone and helping them to change, and they're saying, it's difficult, I can't do this. Did you ever had someone like that?
The only people I've had say that it was difficult and they can't do it are the people who quit on me after 1 or 2 sessions.
hmm
Which very rarely happens, but it has happened, and only after the first or second session. People realize pretty quickly what they, if they're ready or not to make a change. Um, and further along, they don't say that because they're already in the pain point of whatever is hard right now is easier than what I'm going through. You know.
So they always have to be ready, and they realize it when they talk to you if they're ready or not.
Yeah, I think they realize it before they come talk to me usually. um, it's only been a few rare times that people have paid and then they're like, I can't do this. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
But, I usually try to make a pretty strict gateway to chat with me about it
yeah,
because you do have to be ready. And, um, you know, yeah, if you go to someone, I think usually there's a part of you that's ready, but there's a difference between actually doing the work and just talking about doing the work.
Right.
true, true.
Mhm.
Absolutely right. Because you got to be ready to make the change.
Yeah.
It's
It,
important.
yeah. Is your inner child your subconscious?
Inner child is definitely part of the subconscious,
Okay.
right? Because your inner child is that part of your template that learned all of the stuff. So sometimes talking to an inner child or picturing an inner child can make change easier because we all have a drive to take care of children, even if we don't want children, right? Because they're so innocent, they don't know any better. And so sometimes that can make the process easier because if you can connect with your inner child, you can learn how to start taking care of yourself better, right? You're not going to beat yourself up as much. You're going to go a little easier on yourself and you're going to give yourself what you need to be nurtured and make a change.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you ever had someone that came to you with real heavy trauma, and when they evolve, they disconnect from, for instance, like parents?
And they disconnect from parents.
Parents, yes. Like they don't talk to their parents anymore because when they went deep into the trauma, they tend to find out a lot of stuff, and they just kind of like isolate them out from their lives. You ever had someone like that?
I usually have the opposite, actually, where they're disconnected from their parents and they do a lot of healing to not necessarily physically bring the connection back, but they do a lot of forgiveness. They do a lot of, letting go, because chances are, if we are disconnected from our families, we are subconsciously holding on to a lot of anger and resentment.
Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm.
So you
Go ahead.
forgiveness, reconciliation is a key to part of it for some people.
I'm sorry, what was the first part of that?
Reconciliation.
To a degree. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to reconcile, to forgive, and to let go, or even to just move forward without having all the resentment. And because some children are treated very terribly by their parents, abused and assaulted, and I would never say, okay, you need to reconcile and forgive in order to move forward with this. But I'm saying they've already done the damage, and why are you continuing to carry it with you? We need to figure out how we can let this burden go for you so that it doesn't hurt you anymore. I'm not saying you need to forgive, but let's, get this out of our system, get this out of our body, and start nurturing that child in the way it deserved, not in the way it was treated.
Right.
Beautifully said. Nourish the child within. Because a lot of times we beat up ourselves so badly when we get to find out exactly, when we go deep, we tend to do the blame game and beat up ourselves so bad. But once you could find that place to just forgive that child, because it was a child, right? And the forgiveness happened with the child. And as you rightfully said, it doesn't necessarily has to be any kind of reconciliation, right? But you're doing it for you. The main goal is for you, so you could show up better in the world. Yeah.
The more attachments and weight you let go of, the freer you are.
Right. Exactly. Oh, we got 10 minutes more. Can you give us some real nice tools before you go?
Well, actually, I have to go in 2 minutes. But yeah, any tools. So I would definitely just suggest take time for yourself every day, preferably in the morning, 10, 15, 30 minutes before the world wakes up, before kids start screaming, before work calls, and put your nervous system in a state of calm, collected, focus, right? Start your day off in the calm. That means going for a walk without headphones, reading, journaling, meditating, just being in a state of calm and learning what your body feels like within that. Because then when all the stress comes, you'll know the difference, right? So starting to understand the nervous system, and then during the day, start practicing the nervous system regulation. So start practicing maybe 2-minute breathwork sessions throughout the day as you begin stressed, or keep a lemon with you, or those scents that you put on your wrist. Those can really help you calm down if they're mint or lemon or orange flavored, scented. And make sure you're just hitting your basic needs, right? Are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? Are you taking care of your body? Because all of that affects your hormones and affects how you feel.
Right.
So it's kind of like a chicken and the egg, not necessarily what comes first, but as long as something comes and starts the momentum to create the cycle, right? And life is really about momentum, because the second that you're in a momentum of health, it's like everything is going good. And the second you step out of that momentum and into a different momentum of, I'm going to skip the gym, I'm going to eat this, it all of a sudden spirals, right? It's like an all or nothing. So look at the momentum of your life and start making the changes to shift the gears.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. I love it.
Amen. That's our sermon for this Friday, right?
It's so good. Oh my God.
The Lord has spoken.
Thank you so much for taking the time and sitting with us today, and bringing clarity and value.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you building this platform. And for everybody who came in the Facebook, hello, and thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you to all the viewers. Thank you for taking the time also and sitting with us on this show and to help make it a success. And I hope that whatever Elise said, that you write it down and you could move along into your daily routine, understanding yourself, your nervous system, how it works, and know that if you need help, Elise is out there. You can reach out to her. All our social handles are pinned in the comments, and you can reach out to her and have a talk with her. But make sure you're ready.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.